Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Listening Leader, Creating the Conditions for Equitable School Transformation by Safir. Foreword by Michael Fullen. Narrated by Rachel L. Jacobs. Publisher's Note: this audiobook includes bonus material. Please visit Tantor.com and type The Listening Leader into the search box. Follow the link to the book's page. Then, under the Supplemental Content section, please enter the access code, ACTIVE, and then click the Unlock button to access the bonus material. The code should be entered in all lowercase letters. I have never encountered any children in any group who are not geniuses. There is no mystery on how to teach them. The first thing you do is treat them like human beings, and the second thing you do is love them. Dr. Asa Hilliard. Foreword. There are countless books on leadership, but none like Safir's The Listening Leader. When all is said and done, it deals with the forest and the trees. It unpacks both understanding and action. Overall, this book pays equal and integrative attention to listening and to driving. It will cause you to reconsider leadership in ways that you have not thought about. The nature of leadership in school systems these days is badly outdated, as evidenced by the long-standing failure to make improvements. We need leadership that connects with the lives and the futures of students, parents, and teachers. We need new forms of leadership that lift students from seemingly inevitable inertia to lives of action and success. The Listening Leader lays out how to mobilize countless numbers on the ground to forge a path forward. Old leadership discourages. Listening leaders will unleash unrealized energy. Here's the test. Apply some of the ideas of this book to whatever you thought was an intractable situation. Then, leverage the new impetus. Every chapter has gems of insight. Each begins with, "This chapter is designed to help you," and lists the 4 or 5 big ideas that you will learn. Then, after delving into the topics, the chapter ends with key takeaways and listening leader inquiry. Chapter 1 gets the listener immediately into courage of purpose and pathways of solution. We get to understand local accountability, formative versus punitive feedback, experiential use of data, and timeliness. In Chapter 2, we find the core tenets of the listening leader, which includes both rational and emotional elements. Chapters have deeply insightful charts and frameworks. Here are a few. Chapter 5 identifies a list of principles and pitfalls, which includes mistakenly leading from a self-proclaimed sense of urgency, viewing emotion as unprofessional, and failing to interpret nonverbal cues, including one's own. We learn how to understand and navigate complex change by engaging the 6 stances of a listening leader and what to expect when leading complex change. In Chapter 9, there is a wonderful chart comparing how one would lead a technical versus a complex change. Simple rules are provided for complex change, such as make your first year of implementation all about learning, not performing, and develop and learn from skinny plans. In discussing complex change, the author shows what she and others did to guide the change and learn from it. For example, the goal of developing expert teachers who continually refine their craft is coupled with allocating significant time for collaboration and professional learning. Achieving real accountability is linked with co-leadership and consensus decision-making, and so on. In another chapter, we learn how to design a game-changing meeting around listening routines. There is also a powerful chapter on listening to students, something dear to my own recent work, where we are finding that students are radical change agents with respect to pedagogy, learning environments, and society. This chapter, written by Matt Alexander of June Jordan School for Equity, makes the case powerfully and shows the way, including 5 routines to build a culture of listening to students. There is an equally powerful chapter on listening to and connecting with parents for greater equity of learning. All of Shane Safir's chapters are based on her own work and that of colleagues and coaching clients. The book reveals mistakes made by various leaders, what was learned, and how to do it better the next time. The listening leader connects us to other practical and deep work. This is a book that amplifies listening to a deep, comprehensive art. What makes this book so timely is that education's systems are stuck now, mired in the status quo. Shane Safir offers a way out and forward. Listen to it, act on it, and reap the benefits for all. Michael Fullan, Professor Emeritus, Boise, University of Toronto. Preface. Any citizen of this country who figures himself as responsible, and particularly those of you who deal with the minds and hearts of young people, must be prepared to go for broke. Or, to put it another way, you must understand that in the attempt to correct so many generations of bad faith and cruelty, when it is operating not only in the classroom but in society, you will meet the most fantastic, the most brutal, and the most determined resistance. James Baldwin, A Talk to Teachers. I became familiar with the stark shape of injustice while interning for civil rights attorney Jennifer Wood inside the Rhode Island youth prison system, euphemistically called a training school. Wood was representing incarcerated youth in a class action lawsuit designed to improve conditions of confinement, such as access to education, quality food, and better facilities. Each week, she and I followed armed guards through a half-dozen clanging security doors to meet with elected youth leaders. Sitting in a circle, we listened to young men and women share their stories and grievances. While taking notes on technicalities, we also witnessed much heartbreak, the profound frustration of being locked up in your prime, particularly in a system that's overwhelmingly stacked against people of color. I recall Ramon, an aspiring artist who shared his vivid and haunting drawings with me. I remember Shauna, a buoyant young woman whose cousins lived down the hall from her in the female dormitory. These youth had bright futures, but because of the institutional racism shaping so much of their lives, they lacked the second chances many white teenagers have. Through this experience, a painful truth became clear to me. The prison system had siphoned off huge numbers of young people of color, mostly Black, Latino, and Southeast Asian, who were growing up in poverty. I was learning what many people of color know by necessity. I grew up in a majority-white, middle-class suburb where many teenagers committed the same infractions that landed the youth I met in Rhode Island in prison. Yet, I can't name a single kid I knew who did time for his or her bad behavior. This inequity branded itself on my heart and mind and fueled my later pursuit of a career in public education. When I became an urban school teacher a few years later, I realized I had to go for broke, as writer James Baldwin had instructed teachers to do 30 years prior. Like so many educators, I faced both incredible opportunities and daunting challenges. How would I humanize my classroom inside an essentially dehumanizing institution? How would I support the most marginalized students to participate in a rich intellectual world? How would I develop a learning community in the face of radically different social, emotional, and academic needs? And as a white teacher working with students of color, how would I earn trust and credibility? There were many ways to get this wrong, not the least of which is what author and Columbia University professor Christopher Emdin called a pervasive narrative in urban education, a savior complex that gives mostly white teachers in minority and communities a false sense of saving kids. I wish I could say I got it right from the get-go, but the truth is that going for broke is an ongoing process. Educators of all backgrounds step into an inequitable system, replete with distractions and obstacles that pull us off the path to transformation. How can one stay humble, courageous, and grounded in the face of such challenges? Today, there are countless hawkers of solutions and programs to turn around our schools. Although these reformers are well-intentioned and have at times produced some good results, I believe that the best solutions lie in the brilliance of our teachers, our students, and their families. We can't intervene our way to equitable outcomes without listening to the people we aspire to serve. As I'll share in this book, I eventually left the classroom to help found and lead a new high school in San Francisco. Many years later, I spent a sabbatical year teaching Jordanian and Palestinian students in Amman, Jordan, where I learned new ways to listen. Rather than following a predetermined set of pedagogical steps, I had to study subtle cultural cues, make sense of Arabic turns of phrase with no English parallel, and create room for my students' stories. I recall one assignment for which 2 young women from Gaza wrote harrowing narratives about surviving a recent Israeli military assault. One minute, they were sitting outside chatting, and the next, the sky exploded with bombs. This experience reminded me that, to empower young people, we must welcome their untold stories and constantly adapt to the shifting nature of culture and context. Listening and going for broke are lifelong propositions. I start from the premise that we already know what it takes to educate young people. So, what gets in the way? We struggle with low expectations of ourselves as leaders, of our schools, and of so many of our students. We struggle to uncouple the blunt assessments doled out by high-stakes tests from the complex and deeply human enterprise of learning. And we struggle to convince teachers to design intellectually rich environments when so often our adult learning environments are devoid of depth and humanity. We can address these issues, and I hope this book will begin to chart a course. I bring 2 different but related perspectives to this project. First, I carry my own hard-won experience as a teacher and school leader who learned, through early missteps and various successes, to navigate working across difference. Second, as a school and district transformation coach for over 10 years, I have supported a diverse cross-section of leaders. This work has deepened my belief in the importance of listening and of growing a culture of transformation rather than relying on charismatic leadership to save the day. I know that the strategies in this book are effective for any leader who wants to create the conditions for change. None of this will be easy. Interrupting decades, centuries really, of inequitable schooling seems a Sisyphean task, but it is possible. I hope this book will help you find the courage to listen to yourself, to your community, and to what's possible when you decide to go for broke. Introduction. I learned to listen in the row houses, apartments, and projects of Southeast San Francisco. I had been teaching at a neighborhood high school which served roughly a third Latino, a third African American, and a third Filipino students. In my second year, I had the opportunity to create a program called the Law Academy in partnership with an extraordinary English teacher named Rex DeGia. I taught pre-law and U.S. history, managed student internships, and coordinated a group of attorneys who served as mentors. Our students conducted mock trials and debates, read legal cases alongside authors like Cozol, Baldwin, and Freire, and defended their ideas in college-level essays. It was an invigorating experience, but also heartbreaking. Every year we lost at least one student to homelessness, the dropout epidemic, juvenile hall, or violence. Our program constituted just 3 of a student's 6 class periods, and although the school at large was functional, it was also demoralizing and dehumanizing. To enter the building, students had to pass through a tall, guarded wrought iron fence. Using the restroom required a security escort. When a teacher quit mid-year, as was far too common, I would walk past classrooms and see an endless stream of B-movies running. Far too many young people either checked out emotionally or dropped out. Several years later, I joined a group of colleagues who wanted to start a new school. We had heard of groundbreaking public schools in New York City that had flipped the scripts for students like ours, sending over 90% of their graduates to university. With a small planning grant, we visited New York and witnessed the magic of Urban Academy, the International High School at LaGuardia Community College, and Vanguard High School. In these institutions, everyone appeared happy, adults and children alike. Instead of pockets of excellence, we found schools bursting with excellence. Students presented and defended their best work to committees. Small groups of teachers, students, and family members trained to listen and pose critical questions. Teachers were in constant dialogue, pushing each other's thinking and practice to new levels. Leaders listened to their school's communities, valued student and staff feedback, and fended off external mandates that didn't serve their students. Our team returned home and formed a partnership with the community-based San Francisco Organizing Project, a member of the PICO National Network, to rally parent and community support for our vision of a new, small high school serving the district's most underserved students. We began by conducting one-on-one meetings in the homes of parents and discovered the power of story to connect people in an intimate social fabric. Throughout these meetings, we subscribed to PICO's 90-10 principle. 90% of each meeting would focus on listening, and only 10% on talking. I took a year off from teaching and listened to over 200 parents in the community. I remember sitting in the living room of a father and learning of his tremendous sacrifices emigrating from El Salvador so that his children could have a better life. Only now, they were attending schools with low standards and poor safety records. "I want them to be safe," he implored. "I want them to learn and to graduate. Is this too much to ask? Listening to stories like this, I grew accustomed to giving my undivided attention to the speaker, paying attention to nonverbal cues, and asking questions to connect the speaker's hopes and dreams with the potential of a new school. From these one-on-ones, a powerful network of parent, student, and teacher leaders emerged. At first, 10 or 15 people attended our community meetings. In short order, the rooms brimmed with 30 to 40 people. By the time we brought people together to ask the Board of Education to support our effort, nearly 300 people turned out. The crowd spilled out of the cafeteria doors as several students, teachers, and a diverse group of parent leaders spoke passionately. Together, we secured a public pledge from board members that would help us open a new, small, in-district high school. Afterwards, the organizing team stood in a circle to debrief. One parent, whose daughter was fast approaching high school, spoke words I will never forget. I feel like I'm part of the new civil rights movement. We weren't just building relationships. We were building what I call relational capital, the interpersonal currency that fuels social change. We were building power, and we were building a movement. Only later did I realize the critical skill nested at the heart of this work: listening. By relying on a basic human capacity, we laid an unshakable foundation for what became June Jordan's School for Equity. Equitable school transformation is possible. This book is about creating the conditions for equitable school transformation through listening. By focusing your attention on people and the daily stream of data they bring you, you'll learn to listen and build capacity in others. There is also a larger purpose woven into these pages: to transform our schools by transforming our school cultures into equitable places and spaces for every student. Listening is a vital and overlooked tool, and the cornerstone of leading across differences in race, gender, culture, socioeconomic status, language, and age, among other factors. Listening leaders use their ears and eyes to understand where people are coming from. They lead with questions more than answers, and they demonstrate care, curiosity, and regard for every person who crosses their path. But listening leadership extends well beyond the act of listening. It is also an orientation toward collegiality, shared leadership, professional growth, and equity. It's a mindset and a way of being. Equity is the through line of this project. In its simplest form, equity means providing every student with the resources he or she needs to learn and thrive. This requires a willingness to redistribute resources in order to close entrenched opportunity gaps. In my local district of Oakland, California, gentrification and income inequality are pushing many working families and families of color out of their communities. Currently, if 100 students start high school together, 67 will graduate, 46 will start college, and only 10 will graduate college within 10 years. As a school coach in this district and the mother of 2 children in Oakland schools, I am committed to building an integrated, equitable system. Each time I enter a school building, I ask myself, would I send my own children here? If the answer is no, there is work to be done. What is a listening mindset? The concept of mindsets has gained popularity in recent years, spearheaded by the work of Stanford University psychologist Carol Dweck. In her 2006 book, Mindset, Dweck contrasts a growth mindset, the belief that ability is fluid and that effort pays off, with a fixed mindset, the belief that one's abilities, talents, and intelligence are static. Listening leadership offers a framework for holding a growth mindset as a leader. Consider the difference between a listening and a telling mindset. A listening mindset reminds us to slow down, use a thoughtful process to get to an outcome, listen before making decisions, harness the wisdom of the group, distribute leadership to others. A telling mindset instructs us to move fast, be efficient, drive toward outcome, ignore process, use authority to make decisions, be the expert in the room, hold on to positional power. I expect that many of you already possess a listening mindset and skills, which this book will help you sharpen. Is equitable school transformation possible? Absolutely. In 2003, I became the founding co-principal of June Jordan School for Equity, JJSE, a social justice school preparing a working-class, predominantly Latino and African-American student body for college and to become agents of positive change in the world. Now in its 14th year, and led by two incredible leaders whom you'll meet in Chapter 10, one of whom wrote Chapter 8, JJSE continues to serve some of the most marginalized students in San Francisco, with outstanding results. From 2010 to 2013, an average of 60% of JJSE's Latino graduates were eligible for a 4-year university, as opposed to 28% in California and 35% in the San Francisco Unified School District. In that same period, 75% of JJSE's African American graduates were eligible for a 4-year university, versus 29% in California and 27% in the district. Equitable schools like JJSE can exist for every child if listening leaders like you create the right set of conditions. When planting a garden, it is crucial to analyze your growing environment: sun, shade, rich soil, a seasonable climate, and moisture. No plant, no matter how tenacious, will survive without this confluence of factors to support it. Lacking an essential ingredient, it will suffer, wilt, or die. To nurture healthy students, listening leaders cultivate fertile conditions in their schools, a relentless focus on equity, a climate of trust that supports deep adult learning, and a commitment to student and parent voice, distributed leadership, and collaborative inquiry. Creating such a space begins with listening. What does a transformed school look like? Student performance is not predictable by race, socioeconomic status, language, gender, or zip code. Teachers choose to stay for many years, invest in the school community, and steadily improve their practice. Veteran teachers apprentice new ones. The staff is diverse, and the adult culture is collaborative, student-focused, and dynamic. Families feel respected and welcomed into a supportive community. Parents come to school to celebrate their children's learning, and the staff finds creative ways to connect with every family. Students engage in meaningful intellectual work that stretches their hearts and minds as they develop critical consciousness and resilience. Adults and students are joyful and productive, and the lines between school and the real world are blurred. Leader-full schools, not leader-thin. Who is a leader? A leader is anyone willing to take responsibility for what matters to him or her in the work of school improvement.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?